Okay, there we go. The next one for our showcase is Les Landis. Les is president of Landis and Associates, a management consulting firm that provides services in organizational communication, employee engagement, business process management, and continuous improvement systems. The firm serves clients in various industries, as well as government, education, and nonprofit organizations. Les is nationally known for his expertise on the role of communications in performance improvement. His trademark messages about the program trap and the trust connection have been acclaimed in his seminars and conference presentations nationwide as provocative, inspiring, and a breath of fresh air and mind-blowing. Here today to share with you the power of effective listening, tips and guidance on listening is the core of effective communication. Les Landis.
A lot of you intuitively understand some of the things I'm going to be talking about. One of the quotes that I love is from George Bernard Shaw, the playwright. And he said, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has actually taken place. Single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. There are a lot of reasons for that illusion. For me, one of the biggest ones is that we labor under the delusion that the most important part of effective communication is our ability to speak and convey our thoughts. But in fact, the exact opposite is true. It's our ability to be able to tune out what's going on in ourselves and tune in to what's going on with others. So I'm going to be talking a lot about that in Listening to Lead. And I'm going to start by pointing out something that was determined in a study that was done by Google about what contributed most to the success of great teams. Number one, actually this is not number one. Psychological safety is what contributed to great teams. So then what contributed to psychological safety? Trust. And what do you think contributed most to trust in this study? Listen first. Listen first. That's what leads to trust. That's what leads to psychological safety. That's what leads to high-performing great teams. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the obvious things. Why is effective listening so vital? We're going to be talking about how it contributes to better working relationships, how it contributes to better performance, and how it contributes to better outcomes. I make a distinction between performance and outcomes. Performance is what you do. Outcomes is what you get. So we're going to talk about each one of these. So better working relationships. So look at this list. This is what you get with more effective listening. Conveys humility, respect, care, and concern. Interactions are more authentic instead of the one-way message distribution that really only glosses over some of the realities of the communication process. Makes people more approachable, reinforces open and honest communication. People feel more connected and more valued. More connected, more valued, and respected. Builds rapport, promotes better teamwork, and employees are more trusting. Who doesn't want that in their working relationships? And what's the key? Better, effective listening. By the way, we're going to talk about what that looks like. Better performance promotes an organization that excites and energizes people. When you're listening to people, they get more excited and more energized. Supports continuous improvement, one of my big things. In fact, that's what I talked about in our table, is I'm going to focus a whole lot more on helping organizations understand the value and the processes for effective, systematic, continuous improvement. Listening is key to that. People are more eager to contribute. If they know they're going to be heard, they're going to be willing to come forth. Fosters free and open flow of information and ideas, generates new insights, creative solutions, innovation. When you're listening to people, you get a lot more ideas about how we can be better than before. And it produces more informed decisions. We make decisions all the time without really hearing what people are saying and what they're thinking and what they're able to contribute. Better outcomes. You get a more productive organization. Reduces mistakes and errors by orders of magnitude. When you're listening, whole lots of mistakes and errors go by the wayside. Problems are solved way more quickly. Boost productivity, work's done faster, costs are controlled better. Again, what of these things don't we want in our organizations and in our teams? And how do you get there? Better listening. So what do you do? How do we do that more effectively? And what are some of the traps that we get caught in? First of all, we got to have an understanding of this thing that we call two-way communication. I like to joke with people when they say, well, we need around here is more two-way communication. My comment is, what the hell other kind is there? And they say, well, you know, it's the kinds of things, the messages we send out and the distribution and the speeches we make in the seminars. Okay, sometimes that's the best you can do. But don't mistake that, which is message distribution, with communication, which is by definition a dialogue. It's a dialogue, a structured dialogue. So it's more than creating and sending effective messages. It's about effectively managing the dialogue with the emphasis on listening. You know, there's the old joke about we got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right? We should be listening twice as much as we talk. Maybe 80% instead of 20% or instead of 50%. Key purpose is to promote understanding, find common ground, resolve differences. That's what true dialogue comes from. When people tell me about, you know, what we need around here is more two-way communication, and I make my comment about, well, you know, what kind is there? What people call one-way communication is like one-handed clapping. You know, it may move the air around, but it's rarely going to make a connection. It's rarely going to make a connection. And this phrase right here is just so powerful from Jim Howden, who's the head of Root Learning. We always want people to be able to change. Let's change things. Let's move ahead. And Jim Howden says, dialogue is the oxygen of change. Now think of the richness of that metaphor. When you don't have dialogue, people suffocate from not being able to share, to be heard, and to exchange ideas. One of the reasons that we get caught in that is because we want to maintain control. We're all control freaks. No matter what you think, what you say, we're all control freaks. And we're under this illusion, this myth that you maintain better control by talking more than listening. You think you're going to maintain control. If I'm the one that's in charge, I'm the one that's talking, I'm the one that's giving orders. But the truth is, a good listener actually gains more control over the problem because they have the understanding that leads to better decisions and actions. The more you listen, the more informed you're going to be able to make good decisions. So I really want you to just individually, I want you to make this a little interactive. I want you to think of an example of how poor listening hurt control, or conversely, how good listening helped maintain control. I want you all just to think about one thing, and I'm going to just ask a couple of you to share your thoughts. Give you a minute or so to think about that. When somebody has something, feel free to raise your hand. And I'm not going to let you off the hook, so somebody's got to raise your hand. Darlene.
So many years ago, I was having one-handed conversation, as it turns out, with someone who, when she walked up, her thing is that I am the way I am. Nothing's ever going to change, blah, 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 blah. And I had heard her say it before. I didn't really want to hear it again. I just wanted to tell her what I thought. And nothing ever came of that one-handed conversation, because I had heard it before. I tuned her out. I was just letting her verbally vomit, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was just an extremely poor listener, and I probably really missed an opportunity to help her. Yeah. So I completely understand that. I thought I had control of the situation, and yet I did not.
Yeah. How would you do that differently right now?
I would only be focused on what she was saying. I would listen to respond, not listen to react. That's probably the easiest way to say that.
Perfect. Oh my God, I'm going to steal that one. Anybody else want to share one? Yeah, Dale.
Yeah, Les, one of the things I found over the years is that it's easy to jump to conclusions, even if you are listening and you think you found a solution to whatever issue the person's dealing with, and you just can't wait to express it, only to find out later that you didn't have the complete picture, and what you were suggesting was completely wrong.
Yeah.
Terribly embarrassing and terribly counterproductive.
And you certainly don't gain any control over the conversation when you do that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, we've got these stories going on in our head all the time, and it's so hard to cut off those stories. Realities about human nature. People want to be included, appreciated. They want to be heard and understood. And here's the thing. What about a dichotomy? People want to be heard and understood, and yet they're afraid to speak up. They want to be heard, but they're afraid to speak up for fear of being criticized, punished, embarrassed, misunderstood, ignored. That's why people don't speak up. When people feel heard, they feel cared for. When people feel cared for, they do good work. Helping people feel heard, continuous, intentional invitation and encouragement. You got to be extending that. Systematic support structure in order to make sure that we're doing it in a structured, deliberate way. Have a work environment that promotes psychological safety. And it has to be active, reflective listening. It's not just shutting up, right? It's not just silence. Silence is not good listening. Reflective listening is good listening. Here's what I heard you say. Is that right? Tell me a little bit more about that. Then, for God's sake, when you do hear, be responsive and take action, right? Or people aren't going to believe they're being heard. I want to play this little video clip here, which is a classic example of...
It's just, there's all this pressure, and sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there.
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail out.
You're listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like, there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Come on. If you would just...
Don't.
Try to say things. I have to keep on talking until I can go on.
Now, here's the thing you need to understand. The problem really was the frickin' nail in her head. But if she doesn't feel listened to, she's not going to fix that problem. You got to listen first. I'm going to have to buy a little more time here, Mark, because I got to get through to the end of this. So I'm going to take a couple more minutes. Thank you. So they've got to be listened to. Here's a great quote. Sometimes we need someone to just listen, not try and fix anything or offer alternatives, but just to be there and to listen. An ear that listens can be medicine for a heart that hurts. You don't have to have a solution. You don't have to have an answer. All you got to do is do good reflective listening. Here's a little bit of a, I'll call it an acronym that you can use. I've developed, it's called Listening to the Core. And the C stands for caring, demonstrating genuine interest and concern. The O stands for openness, being eager to consider different viewpoints. R, respect, holding others in high regard and showing appreciation for their worth. E, empathy, showing sensitivity for another person's emotions and experiences. So just hang on to this core concept so that you really understand that you're listening from the heart, not just from the head, right? Constructive listening techniques, have the right frame of mind. Be open to learning. Assume positive intent with people. So many of the conversations we get into, we think people are coming at us with negative intent. Set aside your preconceived biases. Oh my God, how hard is that, right? All of the examples we had. Focus on the person's well-being. Clear your mind and quiet the inner dialogue. Toughest thing of all, clear your mind and quiet the inner dialogue. What are some behaviors and actions? Remove all of the distractions. How many of us got our phones in front of us? All of the crap going on around. Get away. Put all of that stuff down. Control the urge to interrupt, which is different from acknowledging people when they're saying something. Jot the notes down. If you have something you want to say and you will want to make sure you don't forget, jot it down on a piece of paper. Pay attention to body language. That'll tell you a lot. Ask open-ended specific questions. Clarify and paraphrase what you've heard to make sure that, in fact, when you paraphrase and reflect what you've heard, people feel dramatically better heard. Confirm agreements and commitments and replace but with and. Replace but with and. So often we say, well, you know what, Arlene, you're really great, but. How about if you're really great and? Almost every time you use the word but, it negates what was before. And almost every time you use the word but, you can replace it with word and. Just try it. See in your own experience. I'm not going to go into these, but interest of time, but one of the greatest ways to be sure that you're being a person that's listening to people all the time is to ask questions. Ask good questions to continue to bring responses out from people. And this is just a list of some. I will make sure that you all have access to this PowerPoint so you can see what those are. And then this is just the last thing. One of the times that we tend to get on our high horse and start speaking and start listening, start speaking and stop listening is when the shit hits the fan. Problems are going to arise. This is a phrase I came up with years ago. Always treat people as a source of the solution, not the cause of the problem. When you're treating people as a source of the solution, you're listening. When you're treating them as the cause of the problem, you're talking. Treat them as the source of the solution, not the cause of the problem. Here's why. Fosters ownership of the remedy, focuses on fixes instead of failures. You use accountability as a ladder to lift people up instead of a club to beat them down. And it reduces the defensiveness that comes from blame and shame. So do this, you're going to be much more effective listener and people are going to feel heard. This is the last thing I want to share from Kevin Cashman, who's the global leader of executive development of Korn Ferry. Effective leaders speak to influence and motivate. Exceptional leaders listen to learn, collaborate, and innovate. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Les.